What's going on, guys? I'm Bergs, that's Longy, and this is NRL Last Minute Madness. What's happening, guys? Bergs and Longy here from The Casual Athlete, back to hit you with our Last Minute Madness this week, where we go through our tips, our fantasy anecdotes, and some big predictions via the TBC Live app that you can download in the description below. And we have a big agenda up today. Longy, what's up first?
Yeah, big day. So tips, we got our fantasy predictions, and we're going through some stat predictions as well. Keep in mind, guys, there is more points for upsets, less for favourites. And the first game of the round, Newcastle v the Dolphins.
Yeah, so try not to laugh too hard at Longy when he takes massive upsets in this one. Mate, I am going to get on the Dolphins here. I do think that it has changed for me earlier in the week. I like the big matchup, though, and I've only gone with two players, one against the other, and it's a huge one. We got Herbie Farnworth taking on Bradman Best. Now, Bradman Best didn't have the best week last week.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys had tough matchups. I'm on the Dolphins here too. So, look, 26% of people have taken the Dolphins. Only 3.7 points there, which is absolutely massive. Whereas Newcastle, it's 1.4 points. My big prediction here, I've gone both teams to score over 20 points. And you might look at that and go, that's not that big a prediction. Both teams were in low-scoring games last week. I think they're both going to turn up and have an absolute shootout. And we look at Bradman Best in particular. He bombed about 4 tries himself. I think he gets some of those back this week.
Interesting. I can't disagree with you more. I've gone with both teams not to score more than 36.5 total match points. Okay. So we are very against each other on this one. Wow. I think the Dolphins very defensive last week, and I don't love the Knights attack at all. I think it's very clunky. Warriors taking on the Seagulls, and the Warriors last week didn't have a great game out in Vegas, and you got to say, Longy, the Seagulls were absolutely exemplary against my North Queensland Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely scintillating. They were so good. Like, Manly rocked up and they sort of said, hey, guys, take us seriously. We're a premiership threat, and everyone's looking now. So, I mean, they go to New Zealand this week. It's not the easiest of road trips. I think people are writing the Warriors off a bit too soon. I'm jumping into this one and thinking, all right, let's look at the tips here. So 89% of people have gone with Manly. 10% have gone with the Warriors. For me, 5 points. I can't turn it down. First game in New Zealand. I think the Warriors get the win, and I'm jumping across to a fantasy enigma, Luke Metcalf. Now, he's going to rock up. He'll score a try in this one. He'll lead the team to a victory. Warriors 1-12.
Yes, very interesting. Both teams did play out a draw last year, so I get the reason why you might think this game might be close. I am totally off the Warriors after last week. I think they couldn't really get it together. They're still finding out their halves pairing, so I'm on Manly. I know it's the safe tip, but I'm going to back in Jason Saab as part of our big matchup this week. We have Garrick, we have Olakau'atu again, we have Jason Saab, that right side for Manly, taking on the left side of Capewell, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Adam Pompey there. I just expect Saab to feast. He scored 9 tries in 5 games against the Warriors. I'm backing him to get a double in this one.
A lowly 1.1 points for your tip. So, Dinkin and Diamond, mate. I just need one of these upsets and I'll get 5 points. So I'm happy with the strategy.
Look, that's okay. One is better than nothing. And moving on to our next game, we have the Panthers taking on the Warriors, where I'm assuming you'll get 1 as opposed to nothing?
So this is one I did a pre-round review of earlier, and it was 1% of people had the Roosters. So that's double the 2%, which I'm going to take credit for because I think I told people, that's a big one, guys. Like,
get on it.
But no, I can't tip the Roosters in this game. They're missing so many players. So Victor Radley's out. We're seeing Nat Butcher still out. Spencer Lenu's still out, and they've got all the guys they lost last year as well. I think they'll rock up and they'll have some good moments, but Penrith will shut it down. And I'm going to say, something like 38-4 or something like that. Pretty grindy, not entertaining from Penrith, but also not a performance that Roosters will want to watch again.
Yeah, the big stat is 10 games in a row. They haven't beaten Penrith since 2019. I think that's been well documented this week. Big matchup in this one, though. We have Liam Martin and Nathan Cleary taking on Gus Crichton and Sandon Smith on the left side of the field for the Roosters. I know Sandon Smith probably not the big ticket item there. But I see Nathan Cleary dominating this game. Not necessarily that it will be against Gus. He's pretty solid in defense. Cleary will roam. He'll get 3 try assists in this one. That is my big prediction. 3 or more try assists for Nathan Cleary.
We're on opposite ends of the fantasy spectrum here. My prediction is about Sandon Smith, and I'm going to go Sandon under 20 fantasy points. Now, last week, my under 20 fantasy points pick was Jackson Purdue, who scored 15. So I'm usually pretty on the money with these. And Look, Sandon Smith, I would not put him in your 17 for fantasy, and I would vote for that prediction for me.
Yeah, look, I'm interested to see how he goes this week. For the Dragons and Rabbitohs game, we have a very interesting matchup in this one. We've got Sully and Sewer playing right side of the field this year, and we have Kaloa Matangi, who's also made a shift over to the left, and he will be with either Myers this week,
Okay.
or I'm maybe thinking Isaiah Tass moves into that left side center spot with Whiten being out. But interesting, I want to ask you, Longy, can you guess Jaden Sewer's best strike rate try scoring record against one team in the competition?
I thought you were going to say South Sydney, and it's
It
going to
is South
be
Sydney.
0.7.
It is South Sydney. He has scored 3 tries in 5 games.
0.6,
Yeah. So it's interesting. I do think as well that Sully has also scored quite a lot of tries against the Rabbitohs and against an undersized or
Mhm.
underexperienced player in Myers this week. Could happen for the Dragons. I'm actually going to get on the Dragons this week. I
Wow.
think they didn't give a good account of themselves last week. They had a good 15 minutes towards the end of the game, but other than that, I do expect them to bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, the way I approach tipping here with TBC is I'll have a look at who's the favorite there, who's the outsider, and I'll start at the outsider and I'll try to justify myself across to the favorite. So
Mhm.
for this game here, 2.8 points for the Rabbitohs, 1.6 for the Dragons. I'm feeling like the gap isn't that big, right? And if it was an even odds game, like in a regular tipping comp and a boring tipping comp, I would go Dragons for sure. But with that big gap there, 2.8 points, I can't turn it down. I'm going for South Sydney.
Wow, I think that's pretty huge to tell you the truth. I'm not opposed to
Mm.
it, but yeah, I can see it happening.
Well, same logic as Canberra last week. Like most people went for the Warriors. I was on Canberra. They were about 3 points as well, so
Mm.
it was a nice outsider. In terms of predictions here, I've got Jamie Humphries 2 or more errors. Now, this is not a diss on him necessarily, but he's a young guy. I think he's getting a little bit overhyped. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him this week. He was handling the ball a lot last week, so 730 kick meters is absolutely massive. And the reason for this is I think teams will start to hone in on him, particularly with Cody Walker carrying an injury and more injuries to South Sydney as well. So he's going to cop a lot of pressure. I think I have a couple of moments where his youth is going to show out. It's not me saying he needs to be dropped or anything like that, but I think that that inexperience is going to come out in this game.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe being hyped by guys like me at this point in time. I love Jamie Humphries. 2 errors. I'm not on board with that.
Okay. All right.
I'm going Keon Kalomatangi to get 4+ offloads in this game.
Wow.
Yeah, huge one. But I think he might get over the line there, even though I've picked the Dragons to win. On to our next game. We have the Cowboys taking on the Sharks up at North Queensland Country Bank Stadium. And I really hated what I saw from the Cowboys last week. I think our middle looks really soft, looks undersized, and it looks a little bit inexperienced and not as talented as they probably thought it might have been. And now we come up against what I consider to be a better version of Manly in the Sharks, who have a huge forward pack. Do you think the Cowboys can get away in this one?
So again, my strategy here is outsiders. I find it very hard not to tip a 5-point outsider on TBC. And that's why the app is designed that way. It's very difficult to do. Now, if I take the Cowboys, say 5 times, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I get one of them, I will beat someone who takes the favorite 5 times, even if they get all the other ones right. Because I get 5 points for that, as opposed to 1.1, 1.1, 1.0. You know what I mean? Like you're getting such a big chunk of points. If you get a couple of those right, and early in the season, it's totally possible. You're a shot. So I'm really looking at this and going, is there a narrative where the Cowboys win? Yes, there absolutely is. They're playing in North Queensland. It's going to be nice and hot. Cronulla were pretty floppy last week. Didn't do too much in Vegas. So you go to the Cowboys and you look at them. They're embarrassed. They've just dropped Jeremiah Nanai. Like there's some stakes here for the coach and for the team. If they're not going to rock up in this game, they're not going to rock up at all this year. So I'm taking the 5-pointer.
I'm taking them not to rock up again.
Wow.
Honestly, the Cowboys, I'm really annoyed at the fact that they've had to play the Sharks as well. It's 2 hard teams to start the season, and it's not ideal start for guys like Tom Duffy. Purdue playing with Kai O'Donnell up against Nickera and Ramian this week.
It's hard for me to justify that.
There's one thing I will give you. Nickera and Ramian haven't scored in their last 3 outings against the Cowboys, but the Cowboys have only beaten the Sharks once since 2018 up at in Queensland at home. I'm off the Cowboys. Didn't like what I saw from them last week. I think that will continue. And my big prediction for the game is that Adam Fanua Blake will score a double.
Wow.
I think our middle is that soft. I just don't really see anyone in our middle tackling him like at all.
Yep.
And we've made a couple of changes. Yes, I think it was ballsy from Todd Payton, but I think the changes are needed.
It's a bold pick. I mean, a prediction like that, if you get that right, your IQ on TBC, like your footy IQ is going to go absolutely crazy. We just posted the top IQ people as well. So shout out to Entertain House, who's absolutely flying in that. But yeah, my prediction is a bit safer, I would say. I mean, if you think the Cowboys are in with a shot, I've got Scotty Drinkwater, 2+ try assists. I think he had an embarrassment of a game last week and saved it with a cheap try at the end.
Mhm.
I think this week he comes out and he shows everyone, hey, I'm still here. I'm still one of the elite fullbacks in the game and I'm here to party, right? So I'm backing him to turn up.
Very interesting. I mean, yeah, I'd love it to see it happen. I'm a big Cowboys fan, but I just don't see it right now. Very disappointed in my team. For the next game, we move on to Saturday night, where we have the Raiders taking on the Broncos. Very interesting. Both teams got a pretty big win recently, and I thought the Broncos were super impressive. Ben Hunt and Reynolds, absolutely outstanding. Big matchup in this one I'd like to highlight is that Strange and Young on the left side will be taking on Ricky and Reynolds. I'm interested to see how Strange develops this year. He had a very good round one. Is it going to be maybe a move back to the norm? Did score well.
Yeah, so the Raiders were interesting. They were a favorite for the spoon coming into this year. And I was everywhere saying I reckon they're a shot at the top 8. I think they're so underrated. Great forward pack, strike in the back line, mature spine. Like they're a good team. Brisbane, on the other hand, are very hyped up right now. And you have a look at what Rob Toyer did to them last week, right? Like he tore them to shreds. So I'm just sort of looking at that. I'm thinking, all right, you got 2 older halves on the edges. You got a center pairing that aren't particularly defensive. Your edge back rowers aren't super noteworthy defenders as well. So you go up against Canberra, who Hudson Young, Zach Hosking, your back rowers there, and particularly Tomoko at center as well. Like, Ethan Strange, like how are they going to keep up with him and his running game? Like, I just think Canberra are in this with a shot. Now, if I was doing boring old tipping, 1 point per tip, I'd probably go for the Broncos because that's what those comps reward, like just taking the boring favorite. But in this, 5 points for the Raiders on TBC. Like, it is such a huge outsider. And of the outsider tips, if you were going to take one outsider tip, I don't know if this is the one, but it's definitely more. I'm more convinced on this than I am on the Cowboys or some of the others I've talked about. So yeah, I reckon they get this one done. And if they don't, I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I think it will be close. I've only gone the Broncos to win it 1-12. Yes, I'm backing the 1.1 tip there. I just think the Broncos are a different beast this year. To me, they've discovered a bit of a killer instinct again after their mess that was last year. I think Madge has really burned a hole in their brains as to getting 2023 out of their minds.
Yeah, I mean, my one fear there is no Tarpanay and what Payne Haas did last week.
Yeah.
Now, if Tarpanay was in, I'd be really confident about this.
Yeah.
But because he's out, I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah, I think that the Broncos forward back is also one that can compete with the likes of Canberra as well. As far as big predictions go, I'm actually backing a Bronco who didn't have the greatest game last week, but I expect him to turn it around and get a bit more space with the ball. Reece Walsh to get 2 try assists or more as well.
He looked ominous last week. He looked really ominous. I'm telling everyone, by the way, don't sell Reece Walsh. You have him in fantasy. This run of fixtures the Broncos have coming up is very good for him. I've gone with Savelio Tamale over 70 fantasy points. And so far, people have all voted against it. So I'm going to get some serious points out of that because he pumped out 49 last week, or last round, without any significant attacking stats. He's a base stat guy. He's an absolute beast. And the Brisbane edges are fragile. I'm just going to keep saying this because it's true. And it's going to get exposed. And I think it'll get exposed this week and then potentially a bit in future weeks as well.
Interesting stuff. I do like Sav Tamale, so hopefully that gets over the line for him.
He's a weapon, man.
Yeah.
He's a weapon.
Big fan. So we move on to now what I'm going to be calling Upset Sunday because this is where my tips kind of take a bit of a turn here. Everyone's on the Tigers to take on Parramatta.
78%.
Yeah.
78%.
I think that is completely ridiculous. There was a narrative going around last week that the Tigers were willing to fight. They were up into their neck in it and they grinded out a loss. To me, that didn't happen. They missed the most tackles out of every team last week.
Wow.
They got torn to shreds, actually.
They missed more tackles than Parramatta.
They missed more tackles than Parramatta.
Stop it.
It's ridiculous.
I watched that Parra game and I'm not sure.
Can I just say, Galvin and Luai missed 11 tackles between them.
Okay.
That is a very noticeable area of attack. Luai doesn't have that strong Penrith defense around him anymore, so he's a little bit more on his own, and the onus is on him to stick to those tackles that he definitely missed in Origin and then also missed at Penrith. It was just covered up by much better defensive structure.
All right.
That's a knock that I've had on him for
So
a
you're
while.
backing Sean Lane to come in and take advantage.
Well, here's the thing. They're going up against Luai specifically and Fainu next to him are going up against Jack Williams and Ronald Volkman. Like, it's not the strongest pairing that I would have. If Moses and like Madison were there, or Moses and Cartwright, I'd be
a
saying
couple of guys in reserve grade, actually.
yeah, who
Moses
are
and
in
Cartwright,
reserve
yeah.
grade at the moment. I'd be putting
Yep.
the mocker on the Tigers here, but I think Para actually get this one done in a close one.
Yep.
They're at home again. I just think that they missed a trick last week, and Riles would have definitely done some work in the week leading up to this game to get him over the line.
If they don't bounce back in some way, as a Para fan, I'll be very upset, right? So they got to rock up for this game. And really, if they do anything other than win, I'll be pretty devastated as a Para fan. So, yeah, look, 4.5 points is absolutely crazy again. This is a coin toss game, right? So if it's even odds, that's a different thing. But because 77%, it's actually just changed as we've been talking, have jumped onto the Tigers. It means 1.3 versus 4.5. You've got to take the upset there. In terms of predictions, I'll jump into mine. I've got this game going to Golden Point as my prediction, and they're often close. I think both these teams will struggle to ice the game. I can't see any of the halves being particularly strong in sort of closing it out with a field goal or something like that. And in fact, I'm going to double down on my bold prediction. I think it ends in a draw.
Yeah, look, I was very close to writing my bold prediction as being a draw, so I'm glad that I didn't do that. I've actually gone to maybe a bit of a negative play. I think one Tigers player in this game goes to the sin bin.
Okay.
That is my bold prediction for this game. Like you said, these games are always close. A lot of high intensity. I think someone could either do something illegal or hold down in a tackle.
Big call. Now we jump across to the Bulldogs and the Titans. And as a Jaden Campbell owner, this one's one I'm excited about. But look, open us up here, man.
Yeah, we're going to go with the big matchup first. We've got Kickow and Burton. Little Kickow, a bit of a back problem at the moment. He's dealing with a bulging disc. Had to get some.
I had that
injections.
in the off season, so I get it.
Yeah, you and Kickow are just supreme athletes.
Similar athletes.
Yeah, exactly.
Look very similar.
You're missing the mohawk bit.
Oh, yeah, but the body's the same. Yeah.
Exactly. We got those two taking on Fermor and Campbell, who will be defending on the right side this week. Big matchup for me.
It's a great matchup.
I love it. And I do think that the Titans go down to Belmore and they get a victory this week. I love the makeup of this Titans squad, especially the forward pack. Look, I'm not big, as you know, on halves that don't game manage or don't have really any manipulation of the game via their kicking. So I don't think that will be there, but it's possibly the most scary running halves pairing you could put together. And Des Hasler might be going insane for doing it and might be revolutionizing the game.
Yeah.
But as Titans fans, that's what you hope for.
I mean, he's got talent there, right? He had to make it work. You get your best guys on the field in 1 to 13, you figure it out later. So he's taken that approach. 1 in 4 people have taken the Titans. So 3 and 4 have taken the Dogs.
I think it's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, look, we've got a lot of, Hectic Fred loves the platform and he's brought a lot of Dogs fans onto it. Yeah. I try to bring Eels fans on, but I haven't done that well, apparently. So, yeah, there's a lot of Dogs fans in TBC Live and they've gone for the Bulldogs, which is understandable. But 3.9 points versus 1.3. It's too big a gap. And this is a coin toss game at best. And even if it was, classic tipping, 1 point each, I'm still going the Titans. So this is surefire points for me. I'm keen to hear, though, what's your big prediction here?
For me, I'm actually going to go Tino to have a massive bounce back game. Yeah. I'm going to get him to go over 121 meters from the lock position. I'm not sure how many minutes he's going to play coming back from injury, but I just think he'll be raring to go to get out there.
Prediction, 121. He's going to do that in the first half. Right?
Oh, well, that's great. Yeah, then I get my prediction points. People can get on it, and they can get points too.
Yeah, so you get less points for your IQ, though, if it's an easy prediction, but I don't mind that. I've gone Jaden Campbell over 70 fantasy.
See, that I thought was a little too much, and that's why I actually gave it the negative.
Yeah, you're the only one. Everyone's voting for it. Yeah. Everyone's voting for it, which makes me annoyed because it's actually a big outside pick. Like 70 is huge.
It's outside.
But I reckon Jaden Campbell comes out, absolutely shows out in this game. Kickout will sub out at some point for Jamin Salmon, and things will open up at that point.
Interesting. All right, guys. Well, that is NRL Last Minute Madness. Make sure that you go download the TBC Live app in the description below to join in, make some predictions, and get in on the banter with us. We're on it all weekend long. I'm Bergs. That's Longy. Catch you next time.